The first and most fundamental principle underpinning this entire framework is the absolute necessity of establishing a clear and unified purpose from the very outset. This is not merely about stating a goal or defining an objective, it is about creating a powerful, centralizing force that aligns every subsequent action, decision, and resource allocation. Without this crystalline clarity, even the most well-intentioned and meticulously planned efforts are susceptible to fragmentation, misdirection, and a gradual erosion of collective energy. A unified purpose acts as the organizational compass, providing a constant reference point that guides the team through uncertainty and complexity. It transforms a disparate group of individuals into a cohesive unit, all pulling in the same direction with a shared understanding of the why behind their work. This shared intent becomes the bedrock of accountability, as every contribution can be evaluated against its alignment with this core mission. The process of defining this purpose cannot be rushed or treated as a superficial exercise. It requires deep, collaborative inquiry to move beyond vague aspirations and articulate a purpose that is both aspirational and actionable. It must be specific enough to provide clear direction yet broad enough to allow for creative problem-solving and adaptation when unforeseen challenges inevitably arise. This purpose must be communicated relentlessly and consistently, woven into the fabric of every meeting, every project brief, and every performance metric. It is the story that everyone in the organization must internalize, a narrative that gives meaning to their daily tasks and connects their individual roles to a larger, meaningful outcome. When this principle is successfully implemented, it creates a powerful filtering mechanism for prioritization. Initiatives that do not demonstrably advance the core purpose can be identified and deprioritized with confidence, preventing resource drain and strategic drift. It fosters a culture of intentionality, where effort is not confused with progress and activity is not mistaken for achievement. In essence, this foundational key point asserts that a strong, clearly defined, and universally understood purpose is the non-negotiable prerequisite for any endeavor aiming for coherent, sustained, and effective execution. It is the strategic anchor that prevents the entire operation from being pulled off course by competing priorities, short-term pressures, or the noise of the external environment. The second critical element builds directly upon the foundation of a unified purpose by addressing the imperative of creating a robust and adaptable operational structure. While a clear purpose defines the destination and the why, this principle is concerned with the how, the tangible systems, processes, and frameworks that translate strategic intent into concrete action. An effective structure is not a rigid, bureaucratic constraint but rather a dynamic scaffold designed to empower individuals and teams, enabling efficient execution while retaining the flexibility to respond to change. It establishes clear channels of communication, defines decision-making authorities, and outlines workflows to minimize friction and duplication of effort. This organization is essential for scaling efforts beyond a small, informal group, as it provides the necessary order that prevents chaos without stifling creativity. A well-designed structure clarifies roles and responsibilities, ensuring that everyone understands their specific contributions and how their work interconnects with that of their colleagues. This clarity eliminates ambiguity, reduces the potential for conflict, and fosters a sense of personal accountability because each member can see their direct link to the overarching mission. However, the architecture must be inherently agile. A structure that is too brittle or hierarchical will inevitably fracture under pressure, unable to accommodate new information, shifting market conditions, or unexpected obstacles. Therefore, the focus must be on building a learning-oriented system that incorporates feedback loops and mechanisms for continuous improvement. This involves creating regular intervals for reflection where teams can assess what is working, what is not, and adapt their processes accordingly. It means empowering teams closest to the problem with the autonomy to make decisions and adjust their tactics without waiting for approval from a distant central authority. This balance between order and agility is delicate. Too much rigidity leads to stagnation, while too little structure results in anarchy. The optimal framework provides sufficient guidance to ensure coordination and alignment with the core purpose, while simultaneously granting the freedom necessary for innovation and rapid problem-solving. It is a living system that evolves in tandem with the organization's growing understanding of its environment and its own capabilities, ensuring that the machinery of execution remains a catalyst for progress rather than an impediment. This seamless integration of clear, accountable processes with built-in adaptability is what allows an organization to move with both precision and resilience. The third essential principle focuses on the critical importance of fostering a culture of continuous and open communication, which serves as the lifeblood connecting the unified purpose to the operational structure. While a clear purpose provides direction and a solid structure provides the pathway, it is effective communication that ensures every component of the organization is dynamically linked and moving in concert. This goes far beyond the simple transmission of information or the routine holding of meetings. It is about creating an environment where dialogue is constant, feedback flows freely in all directions, and information is shared transparently and proactively. In such an environment, communication acts as the central nervous system, sensing challenges, relaying opportunities, and coordinating responses in real time. It is the mechanism that prevents silos from forming, as knowledge and insights are not hoarded within teams or departments but are disseminated to where they can be most useful. This requires establishing not only formal channels for updates and strategic reviews but also nurturing the informal networks and spaces where spontaneous collaboration and problem-solving can occur. A culture of true communication is characterized by psychological safety, where individuals feel empowered to voice opinions, raise concerns, and offer dissenting perspectives without fear of reprisal. This is vital because it surfaces potential problems early, allows for the constructive challenge of assumptions, and unlocks the collective intelligence of the entire group. When communication is stifled or filtered, minor issues can fester into major crises, and innovative ideas are often lost. Furthermore, this principle emphasizes that communication must be a two-way street. Leadership must not only broadcast the vision and key decisions but must also actively listen to feedback from all levels of the organization, creating a loop where frontline experiences and insights can inform and refine strategy. This ongoing exchange ensures that the organization remains responsive and adaptive, capable of learning from both its successes and its failures. It builds trust and reinforces a shared sense of ownership, as people feel heard, understood, and involved in the journey. Without this pervasive and dynamic flow of communication, even the most brilliant purpose and the most elegant structure will falter, as misalignment, ambiguity, and disengagement will inevitably creep in, undermining the collective effort and impeding the ability to execute with coherence and agility. The fourth pivotal element centers on the deliberate and ongoing cultivation of strategic adaptability, which is the capacity to evolve and refine the core approach in response to new information, changing conditions, and emergent opportunities. This principle acknowledges that no initial plan, no matter how meticulously crafted, can fully account for the complexities and unpredictabilities of a dynamic environment. While a unified purpose provides a stable destination and a robust structure offers a reliable vehicle, adaptability is the skill of navigating the unforeseen twists and turns of the road itself. It is the critical difference between a rigid, brittle strategy that breaks under pressure and a resilient, learning-oriented one that grows stronger through challenge. This involves creating systematic processes for monitoring both internal performance and the external landscape, using data and frontline feedback as a compass to guide necessary adjustments. It is not about reactive, frantic shifts in direction with every new piece of data, but rather about building a disciplined and proactive practice of reflection and course correction. This requires empowering individuals and teams with the autonomy to make local decisions and experiment within a clear framework, fostering an environment where calculated risks are taken and where learning from outcomes, both positive and negative, is valued more highly than assigning blame. A culture that embraces strategic adaptability understands that failure is an inevitable and invaluable source of insight on the path to success. It moves beyond simply executing a preset plan and towards a more dynamic model of sensing and responding, where the strategy itself is a living document, continually honed and updated. This necessitates a mindset shift at all levels, from leadership to frontline contributors, from one of plan adherence to one of purposeful evolution. Leaders must champion this by openly questioning their own assumptions, encouraging dissenting views, and creating forums where the strategy is regularly stress-tested against reality. This ongoing process ensures that the organization's efforts remain relevant and effective, preventing the stagnation that occurs when methods become sacred cows and yesterday's solutions are blindly applied to tomorrow's problems. It is the mechanism that allows an organization to leverage its unified purpose and efficient structure not just for efficient execution, but for intelligent and responsive execution in a world of constant change, ensuring that momentum is maintained and the ultimate objective is reached not in spite of the challenges encountered along the way, but often because of the smarter, more refined approaches developed in overcoming them. The fifth and culminating principle involves the rigorous implementation of a system for continuous measurement and learning, which provides the essential feedback required to validate progress, inform strategic adaptability, and ensure that all activities remain aligned with the core purpose. This is not merely about tracking basic output metrics or celebrating activity. It is about defining and monitoring a clear set of leading and lagging indicators that truly reflect the health and advancement of the initiative. These metrics must be thoughtfully chosen to measure what genuinely matters: outcomes, not just efforts, and must be intrinsically linked to the strategic objectives. Without this disciplined approach to measurement, an organization operates blindly, unable to distinguish between motion and meaningful progress, and vulnerable to continuing down unproductive paths based on anecdote or inertia. A robust measurement system acts as an organizational mirror, providing an honest and unvarnished reflection of reality. It answers the critical questions of whether the current strategies are effective, whether the operational structure is facilitating or hindering progress, and whether the collective effort is translating into tangible results. This data-driven insight is the fundamental fuel for the previously discussed principle of strategic adaptability, moving course corrections from the realm of guesswork to informed decision-making. However, measurement alone is insufficient. It must be coupled with a deeply ingrained learning discipline. This involves establishing regular, structured intervals for the collective review and interpretation of the data, where the team can move beyond the what of the numbers to understand the why behind them. These sessions are not for assigning blame for shortcomings but for extracting valuable lessons and insights. They are forums for asking probing questions. Why did that initiative exceed expectations? Why did this other approach fail to deliver the anticipated outcome? What underlying assumptions were proven correct or invalidated by the results? This process of deliberate analysis transforms raw data into actionable intelligence, creating a virtuous cycle where past performance directly informs future strategy. It fosters a culture of evidence-based execution and intellectual humility, where decisions are constantly refined based on empirical feedback. This commitment to learning ensures that the organization does not simply repeat its actions out of habit but becomes increasingly sophisticated and effective over time. It embeds a mechanism for perpetual improvement into the very fabric of the organization's operations, guaranteeing that knowledge is captured, shared, and leveraged. Ultimately, this fusion of precise measurement and disciplined learning closes the loop, connecting action to outcome and ensuring that the entire enterprise is not only executing with purpose and structure but is also evolving intelligently based on a clear-eyed assessment of its own performance, thereby maximizing its long-term potential for success and impact. The sixth and culminating principle addresses the critical necessity of fostering unwavering commitment and resilience at both the individual and collective levels, serving as the vital human element that sustains the entire framework through inevitable challenges and setbacks. While a clear purpose provides direction, a solid structure enables execution, and adaptable systems allow for course correction, it is the depth of personal and shared investment that ultimately determines the stamina and long-term viability of any endeavor. This commitment is forged through a profound sense of ownership, where each team member feels personally accountable for the outcome and intrinsically motivated to contribute their best effort. This goes far beyond mere compliance or superficial agreement. It is a deep-seated belief in the mission and a dedication to seeing it through, especially when obstacles arise. Building this level of commitment requires conscious and continuous effort from leadership to ensure that every individual understands not only their role but also the significance of their contribution to the whole. It involves creating an environment of trust and mutual respect, where people feel valued, supported, and confident that their colleagues are equally dedicated. This collective resolve is the bedrock of resilience, which is the capacity to endure difficulties, learn from failures, and persist in the face of adversity. Resilience is not an innate trait but a cultivated capability, developed by navigating challenges together and emerging stronger. It is reinforced by celebrating small wins along the journey, which maintains morale and provides tangible proof of progress, especially during long or arduous phases. Furthermore, resilience is bolstered by a culture that reframes obstacles not as insurmountable barriers but as complex problems to be solved collaboratively. When teams encounter failure, a resilient mindset focuses on extracting lessons rather than assigning blame, ensuring that every setback becomes a source of valuable data that strengthens future efforts. This principle recognizes that even the most perfectly designed strategy will encounter unforeseen pressures, resource constraints, and moments of doubt. It is in these precise moments that the reservoir of commitment and resilience is drawn upon, providing the psychological and emotional fortitude to persevere. Without this human tenacity, the most elegant systems can falter under strain, as disengagement and discouragement erode the collective will. Therefore, nurturing this steadfast commitment is not a secondary concern but a fundamental strategic priority, ensuring that the organization possesses not just the technical blueprint for success, but the enduring spirit and determination to see it through to its conclusion, transforming ambitious vision into tangible reality through sheer force of will and shared conviction. The seventh and final principle consolidates the entire framework by emphasizing the imperative of strategic integration, the conscious and continuous process of weaving the preceding 6 elements into a single, cohesive, and self-reinforcing system. This is the point where the individual components cease to operate in isolation and begin to function synergistically, creating a whole that is significantly greater than the sum of its parts. A unified purpose without a robust structure remains an unfulfilled aspiration, just as a culture of communication without strategic adaptability produces dialogue without decisive action. Similarly, meticulous measurement is of little value if the findings do not inform a resilient and committed response. Strategic integration is the master discipline that ensures these connections are not left to chance but are deliberately engineered and maintained. It requires leaders and team members to constantly view the endeavor through a holistic lens, understanding how a change in one area creates ripple effects throughout the entire system. For instance, when performance metrics from the measurement system indicate a shortfall, an integrated organization does not simply demand greater effort, it re-examines its purpose for clarity, assesses its structure for bottlenecks, opens channels of communication to diagnose the root cause, exercises its adaptability to refine the approach, and draws upon its reservoir of commitment to see the new plan through. This creates a dynamic and virtuous cycle where each principle strengthens and validates the others. The process of integration is active and ongoing, requiring regular synthesis checkpoints where the team explicitly questions how well the different elements are aligning. It fights against the natural tendency for organizational silos to develop, where the team responsible for communication becomes disconnected from the team managing metrics, leading to conflicting priorities and wasted energy. Successful integration ensures that the language of purpose is reflected in the design of the operational structure, that the values of open communication are embedded in the measurement and learning processes, and that the capacity for adaptability is supported by the depth of the team's collective commitment. It is the ultimate catalyst for generating coherence and momentum, transforming a list of good practices into a powerful and unified operational philosophy. This principle acknowledges that sustainable success is not achieved by excelling at one or two aspects while neglecting others, but by achieving a state of dynamic equilibrium where all components are aligned and mutually supportive, creating an organization that is not only effective in its execution but also inherently agile, learning-oriented, and resilient in the face of a complex and ever-changing environment. The eighth and overarching principle, which emerges from the successful application of all others, is the cultivation of a proactive and enduring leadership ethos at every level of the organization. This concept transcends the traditional, hierarchical view of leadership confined to a select few in formal positions of authority. Instead, it champions the notion of distributed leadership, where every individual, regardless of their title, is empowered and expected to take ownership of the mission and act as a steward for its success. This ethos is the life force that animates the entire framework, ensuring that the structures, systems, and strategies do not become static artifacts but remain dynamic and responsive. It is characterized by a forward-looking perspective that anticipates challenges and opportunities rather than merely reacting to them. Individuals who embody this mindset do not wait for instructions when they identify a problem or see a chance for improvement. They initiate action, mobilize resources, and rally their colleagues. This requires a foundational environment of psychological safety and trust, where people feel confident in exercising their judgment and are supported even when their initiatives do not yield the desired outcome. Such an environment is carefully built by formal leaders who model the way by delegating meaningful authority, sharing critical information transparently, and creating space for others to lead. This pervasive leadership ethos is the ultimate engine of innovation and resilience. It means that the capacity to guide, influence, and make consequential decisions is not a bottleneck at the top but a distributed capability throughout the organization. When a team encounters an unforeseen obstacle, multiple people feel equipped and authorized to step into a leadership role to navigate the challenge, applying the core principles of purpose, communication, and adaptability in real time. This collective responsibility ensures that the organization's momentum is never wholly dependent on a single individual or a small group. It fosters a culture of continuous initiative where everyone is actively engaged in scanning the horizon, questioning assumptions, and seeking ways to advance the collective goal. This transforms the organizational dynamic from one of passive execution to one of active co-creation, where each member is a guardian of the vision and a driver of progress. The result is an enterprise that is inherently more agile, more innovative, and far more capable of sustaining long-term success because its leadership capacity is multiplied, deeply embedded, and constantly renewed from within. This self-replenishing source of guidance and initiative is the final, critical element that binds all other principles into a living, breathing, and perpetually evolving organism. The ninth principle addresses the critical necessity of embedding a disciplined and forward-looking resource optimization strategy that extends beyond mere financial capital to encompass time, talent, and attention. This is the practice of strategic stewardship, ensuring that every asset available to the organization is allocated with maximum intentionality and aligned directly with the core purpose. It moves beyond simplistic budget management to a more holistic view where human energy, creative potential, and operational bandwidth are recognized as finite and invaluable commodities that must be invested, not merely spent. This requires a rigorous and ongoing process of evaluation to ensure that resources are not diffused across too many fronts or locked into legacy projects that no longer deliver sufficient value. It involves making deliberate and often difficult choices about what to stop doing, what to prioritize, and where to divest in order to fuel the most critical initiatives. This principle is fundamentally about focus, preventing the common organizational trap of spreading efforts too thinly and achieving mediocrity across numerous areas instead of excellence in a few. It demands a culture that is adept at saying no to good opportunities in order to say yes to great ones, thereby channeling collective energy into the ventures with the highest potential for impact. This optimization is not a one-time annual exercise but a dynamic and continuous activity, responsive to the feedback from measurement systems and the need for strategic adaptability. It involves constantly scrutinizing workflows for efficiency, eliminating redundant processes, and automating routine tasks to free up human talent for higher-order thinking and innovation. Furthermore, it requires a deep investment in developing the organization's talent, viewing skill building and knowledge acquisition not as a cost but as a strategic allocation of resources that compounds in value over time. By stewarding attention with the same diligence as finances, the organization protects its focus from the constant pull of distractions and short-term pressures, ensuring that the team's cognitive resources are dedicated to the tasks that truly advance the mission. This meticulous and comprehensive approach to resource management creates a powerful engine for execution, where the synergy between well-deployed finances, optimally utilized talent, strategically focused time, and protected attention generates an output that far exceeds the input. It is the discipline that ensures the organization's energy is not wasted on tangential pursuits but is concentrated with laser-like precision on turning its strategic intent into tangible reality, thereby maximizing its return on effort and ensuring the long-term sustainability of its mission. The 10th and culminating principle centers on the intentional and systematic creation of a sustainable legacy, focusing the organization's efforts not merely on immediate outcomes but on building an enduring capability for long-term impact and value creation. This forward-looking perspective requires a fundamental shift from a project-based mindset to an institution-building ethos, where every decision and action is evaluated not only by its short-term results but also by its contribution to the long-term health, resilience, and relevance of the entire enterprise. This involves deliberately designing systems, cultures, and knowledge bases that are resilient to the departure of any single individual, including its founders or key leaders. It means investing in building robust processes, comprehensive documentation, and a deeply embedded culture that can onboard new members effectively and perpetuate its core values and operational excellence independently. A key aspect of this principle is the development of future-ready talent, creating a continuous pipeline of leadership and expertise through mentorship, deliberate skill building, and the delegation of increasing responsibility. This ensures that the organization is not reliant on a static set of capabilities but evolves its competencies in anticipation of future challenges and opportunities. Furthermore, building a sustainable legacy necessitates a commitment to ethical grounding and social responsibility, recognizing that long-term viability is inextricably linked to the trust and goodwill of all stakeholders, including employees, customers, and the broader community. This involves making choices that may not optimize immediate profit but which strengthen the organization's reputation and relationships over a decades-long horizon. It also demands the cultivation of strategic foresight, a disciplined practice of scanning the horizon for emerging trends, disruptive technologies, and shifting societal expectations, allowing the organization to adapt its model proactively rather than reactively. This principle integrates all others, for a true legacy is built upon a clear and enduring purpose, a scalable and adaptable structure, a culture of communication and learning, and a deeply committed and resilient workforce. The focus moves beyond simply solving a present problem or capturing a current market opportunity. It is about constructing an entity that is capable of continuous renewal, that learns from its environment, and that contributes meaningfully to its ecosystem in a way that allows it to thrive across generations. This is the ultimate expression of strategic maturity, where success is measured not by a quarterly report but by the enduring positive mark the organization leaves on its world and its capacity to remain a vital and contributing force far into the future.